Hello, my name is Jacob Snyder. So, for my persuasive analysis, I wanted to focus on PETA and their advertising campaign. Without further ado, let's get into the controversial world of PETA's visual advertisements. So, PETA is the world's largest animal organization. They were founded in 1980, and PETA stands for People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. Um, PETA's main message is to treat animals ethically, highlighting specifically the use of fur, animal testing, and people's diet to reduce the use of animals. From PETA's website, we have their mission statement of working through public education, cruelty investigation, research, legislation, special events, protest campaigns. So, what I mostly want to focus on this presentation is their campaigns and their advertising that they use to get their message of treating animals ethically across to their audience. So, PETA's advertising. PETA's advertising is very iconic. They also advertise on a various amount of platforms. So we have billboards, social media, commercials, magazine ads, public events, short videos, and images. And what a lot of these have in common is they're all images. They're all visual appeals. PETA's tactics include a lot of eye-catching stunts and images. To get their message across. And they also center a lot of their advertising on controversy and emotional appeal. So we're going to see what that looks like further in this chapter. Further in this presentation, rather. So, course concepts. There are a ton of course concepts that can relate to PETA's advertising. And even as I was looking in the book to get a better understanding of the concepts, I was even seeing some examples of PETA being used in our book to relate to course concepts. So the biggest three that I found were visual persuasion, motivational appeal, and credibility. So let's get into it. Visual persuasion. This is literally PETA's like bread and butter. This is what they use to really slam their message into their audience. And when it comes to visual persuasion, they highlight specifically on shock ads, shock advertising. So they have obnoxious, graphic, appalling advertisings that really try to push the boundary to what is appropriate and acceptable. And they do this in order to get their message across. This emotional appeal that shock ads induce in their audience then has a significant effect that adds on to their visual persuasion. Motivational appeals are a key concept within PETA's visual persuasion. And like we know with discussed literature, emotional appeals are a very effective way to persuade an audience and to also make sure that they're memorizing what they are seeing. So within PETA's visual advertising, we see motivational and emotional appeals that are consider fear and guilt. Fear and guilt and shock are one of PETA's biggest emotional appeals that they want to induce within their audience. And not only this, but we will touch upon this also in the rest of this presentation, but they also center a lot of their advertising on sex appeal. Given this, and given their means of persuading an audience, we also have, because they are such a huge organization, credibility. With an organization this big, credibility is a huge thing in how their persuasion is going to be perceived amongst their audience. So with any organization, especially animal rights groups, they must maintain credibility in order to be successful in pushing the boundaries to their message. An increased credibility equals an increased level of persuasiveness, and PETA's advertising and their advertising style has affected their credibility in a very interesting way, which we'll talk about right now. So, I'm going to show you a few examples of PETA's advertising. These are all PETA advertising, like proclaimed copyrighted PETA advertisings, directly from this organization. So, first one we have: save the whales, lose the blubber, go vegetarian. So this ad got a lot of controversy. This was seen on billboards and on their social media pages on a lot of platforms. We have the concept of fat shaming here. I mean, we don't have the inclusivity of all body types, and PETA is promoting that having little blubber or fat on your body is an issue and that you should go vegetarian because of it. Continuing on this, we also have PETA's use of sex appeal, and they have a history of using promiscuous models, especially women. So we have almost like a gender issue here that has to do with misogyny. To persuade their audience, they use this cliche sex appeal to try to be more effective in their persuasion of their message of treating animals ethically towards their audience. Then we have those emotional appeals of guilt and fear. So, has your child got autism? Learn about the links between autism and dairy products. This is mocking the Got Milk campaign that was very popular also within our society and popular culture. And also, feeding your kids meat is child abuse. This is also just shock. It's fear. It's trying to scare their audience into thinking that actions that they are doing that go against PETA's message are of an issue and are of deserving of fear and guilt to question what they're doing and what is normal. And on top of this, we also have PETA's heavy use of gore and graphic imagery that shocks their audience. We have a lot of blood and a lot of their advertising, a lot of use of animals and props that really shock the audience and make what they are looking at very memorable to their brains when they have the cognition and the cognition process of what they're actually seeing and what the message is. So, because of these advertisings, and this is a great one too, this actually took place in New York City. This one is mocking a breeding organization, a dog breeding organization, and members of PETA dressed up in Ku Klux Klan costumes. This one really speaks for itself. So overall, PETA has a great opportunity, and they have great potential of means of persuasion to their audience, but they have a great misuse and overuse of these means of persuasions that would otherwise be effective. PETA's choice to resort to shaming and insults and really more so attention grabbing than logic and emotion. Then logic and emotional appeal is very significant within their ads. I mean, they take this concept of emotional appeal and just implode it to its biggest form. And this is where PETA's otherwise effective campaigns in advertising soon becomes ineffective. And because of this, PETA has significantly lost a lot of credibility within their organization. So we have the fact that PETA centers a lot of their persuasive means on emotion. And we can see that due to this, and due to them resulting in a lot of these tactics to really trigger emotional appeal within their audience, they're losing their credibility and they're not also using a lot of logic. And as we know with persuasion, there should be an equal use of these three bases of persuasion. And persuasion needs to center and be a effective and efficient combination of these three building blocks. So my proposal to PETA would be simply that they need to kind of reorganize their persuasive tactics to include more logic. And in sense, that would also increase their credibility. Then again, this organization has been around since the 1980s, and like I said, is the also largest animal rights organization in the world. So obviously, they are doing something right to get the audience's and society's attention towards their issue. But is their advertising more so centered around getting the attention, or is it more so centered around presenting their message in a logical sense? And this is where I think PETA could change their tactics when it comes to persuasion and focus a lot more on logic and credibility and not so much on emotion. So I really hope you enjoyed this presentation. I learned a lot and I really enjoyed dwelling more into this topic, especially since this is an issue that was close to me as I was vegan for a while, and PETA's ads were probably one of the biggest motivating factors for me to make that choice for myself. The visual persuasiveness of PETA and other animal rights organizations really drove the message home for me to do this. But now, as I am now a former vegan, I can see the faults in a lot of these issues that I think I was biased against now. So I really enjoyed this topic in this presentation, and I thank you for your attention. Thank you.